Pierce, we have a lot of problems, like, say, within the United States of America. We have some very high crime areas that are predominantly African American. And if you were like, hey, that's a real problem, we got to come up with a solution for black crime in the United States of America. And I were to say, like, oh, well, here's a proposal. We could just incarcerate every single black man. Poof. Black crime, not a problem anymore. I think immediately you'd go, yeah, but that's just an unacceptable answer. Like, you can't do that.
It's almost midnight here in the UK, but we have to continue spreading the truth and exposing the lies. Today we are reacting to another Piers Morgan video. This one in particular involves Dave Smith going crazy, dropping facts, exposing Zionists and putting them in their place. Let's get started.
Well, I mean, it's, as I've said on the show before, it's a tragedy, and it's the worst thing in the world that's happening over there right now. And just the sheer number of children who are dying in all of this. And by the way, I'm sorry, Omar's right about everything he said. And I just should point out just a correction to Joe, because he got the propaganda point a little bit wrong. Just so you know, I could take over arguing the Zionist propaganda because I know it quite well. But so no, you can't say the Palestinians haven't accepted Israel's right to exist, that you have to move the goalposts now and say because all of them have accepted Israel's right to exist under 67 borders, including Hamas. But no, it's they have to accept them as a Jewish state now. That's the new talking point. But look, Piers, here's the deal, right? And I think that I've seen you host a lot of debates on this, and I kind of have a sense of where you are, I think, moderate on this topic, and you see some of the points on both sides being made.
Yeah.
Take Mike Huckabee, for example, and by the way, you didn't mention Hegseth, but he's guilty of the same thing too. The religious fanaticism, the way they speak about this conflict. If anyone in a first world civilized society spoke about any other policy this way, we would all rightfully be appalled. I mean, Huckabee, and I understand it's not the most consequential position, but the fact that the symbol of making this guy the ambassador, that he says, essentially, there's no such thing as a Palestinian. There's no such thing as a settlement. There's no such thing as an occupation, because God gave all this land to Israel. And so these people there just have no rights. And that's that.
For those of you who don't know who Mike Huckabee is, Mike is a former politician and former ambassador. Trump recently selected Mike to be the ambassador for Israel. Take a listen to this.
There really is no such thing as, and I have to be careful in saying this, because people will really get upset. There's really no such thing as a Palestinian. There's not. Arabs and Persians. You don't. And there's such complexity within that. There's really no such thing. That's been a political tool to try to force land away from Israel.
Mike Huckabee, you are nothing but a liar, a coward, and a piece of How many times do I need to say, and I don't understand how or why, that these are the types of people who are put into positions of power and leadership? It blows my mind. We have the wrong people doing the wrong jobs.
Now, if anybody in a sane, civilized world spoke this way about any group of people, we would immediately recognize you as a dangerous loon who should be nowhere near power. We simply do not make political calculations this way in any other area of life. I mean, even the pro-life movement has to make an actual argument over why abortion is murder or why abortion is wrong. They don't just get to say, God says so, it's in my holy book. And so, look, to Omar's point, I mean, the Donald Trump, wherever his rhetoric is, typically just carries out the same foreign policy as the American establishment. Israel really is the unique difference, where he's shown in his first term that he's actually willing to go further. And I am very concerned over the signal, like what Benjamin Netanyahu is going to take this signal to mean. And I hope I'm wrong, but I would not be surprised if Benjamin Netanyahu goes for some major escalation, officially annexing the West Bank or something like that. I mean,
Firstly, Dave Smith, thank you and well done for speaking the truth and sticking to your guns. He's obviously somebody who's very clued up and knows exactly what's going on. He's funny, he's confident, he's charismatic, and these are the types of personalities you want speaking up about the Palestinian struggle. He's not Muslim, he's not Palestinian. In fact, I think he might even be an American Jew. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Another point that Dave made was, you can't just say this land is mine because God says so. How does that even make any sense? And how do you use that statement to justify the killing of the Palestinian people? I'm shocked that the Zionists are getting away with doing what they like and saying what they want.
If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have disputed a lot of that. But I do think what's happened is internal politics is now at play with Netanyahu. Is that 6 months ago, he was incredibly unpopular in Israel. And it was highly likely that if the war came to an end, he would be voted out of office very quickly and held to account for what happened on October the 7th in terms of allowing this to happen on his watch. And he would then be facing corruption charges and possibly ending up in prison. But then came the Hezbollah attack, where 3,000 members of Hezbollah were attacked with pages in a highly sophisticated operation. And from that moment, him and his party have got steadily and quite rapidly more popular, to the extent where most people now believe that if there was an election tomorrow, Likud, his party, would win with a sizable majority. And he now has a real ally of his, Donald Trump, back in the White House, who's extremely pro-Israel. There's no question of that. So again, all of this aligning at the same time. If I was Palestinian, I'd be extremely concerned about what may now happen. And I think Omar might be right, that there could be a dramatic escalation because it will suit Netanyahu politically. And honestly, he's never wanted a two-state solution, has he? I mean, he just hasn't.
No, I mean, he funded, or indirectly, but facilitated funds and propped up Hamas for many years, specifically with the goal of undermining the ability of a two-state solution. And by the way, if you read through like some of the quotes from Israeli leaders on this, part of the reason why he did that was also to kind of suppress the liberal Israelis who favored a two-state solution. And so if you had Hamas in power in Gaza, then you could look to the liberal Israelis and say, hey, we have no partner for peace, and to your point, it's like, this is kind of the nature of the conflict, right? Is that there's this rally around the flag effect on both sides, right? So after October 7th, then this war becomes more popular with the Israeli people. And then as this war goes on, Hamas becomes more popular with the people in Gaza, because everybody's always looking for somebody to kind of go and defend them and go get the guy back who got you, in the same way that George W. Bush had record high approval ratings right after 9/11. And we didn't really care particularly who we were going to go bomb the crap out of, but we wanted to get someone back because we got hit. When you have essentially the Israel and the Palestinians have been at war since at least 1947. There's really, Israel had several wars with other Arab countries, but they were always pretty short and they wrapped up pretty quickly. But the war against the Palestinian people has never stopped. It's been going on this whole time. And when there's been such a long conflict and there's so many different, there's acts of violence on both sides, it's very easy for people like Joe to say, well, this is because of October 7th. They're reacting to that. And then it's very easy for people more on the Palestinian side to say, well, no, the Palestinians were reacting to what happened before October 7th, But,
you see Smodrich, who's the far-right finance minister, saying on Monday he hoped Israel would extend sovereignty into the occupied West Bank in 2025 and would push the government to engage the incoming Trump administration to gain Washington's support. I mean, I think what's been going on with the aggressive expansion of settlements during the last year, I think that has been an indisputable war crime, frankly. It should never have been allowed to happen. And now you've got one of the Israel government openly saying, yeah, we want it. We want the whole thing. We want the whole West Bank. And that just plays, Joe, into the argument that's come from the other side throughout this, which is this has been the bigger plan all along. That actually the way that Israel has executed its response to October the 7th is just total obliteration, making it impossible for Palestinians to have any kind of viable state in Gaza after all this. Therefore, Israel just take over, as it will on the West Bank. It's hard to argue when you hear Smodrich and these guys talking that way, isn't it?
Dave raises an excellent point. If somebody hurts you, killed your people, commits acts of terrorism, then people are always looking for someone to defend them. I really like how Dave uses simplicity to break down his argument. People are always banging on about numbers, evidence and data, and sometimes we overlook the very basic of things. Of illegal settlements, as I've explained in my previous video, this has increased by over 180% over the last 5 years. The Palestinians have been trying to say this for over 70 years. We need intervention and we need change. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace out.